Well, good afternoon and welcome once again to Ed's Orchids. Now, I've been asked a few times to do a little video on slipper orchids, so that's what I'm going to do today. Well, as you all probably know, there's two lots of slipper orchids. One from the Old World, which is the Far East, and the other from the New World, which is South America, etc. Now then, I'll show you the Paphiopedilums first, because they are, to me, the hardest ones to grow. I find them very, very difficult. I never used to, but I do now. But I've got some half a dozen small ones here in front of you, and we'll just have a look at them. They're all planted in lava rock. One's got a little bit of moss on the top, but we'll just have a look at them. Now, as I said, these are very hard to grow. Well, a lot of people find them easy, but I don't. I find them very difficult these days for some reason. But I've read a lot that they grow very well in lava rock. And this is what I've got them all in. And since I put them in, they've started to grow. A new leaf there. Looks like a nice growth there. Another one there, and another one coming up there. And those are the ordinary straightforward Paphiopedilums, and then we've got the multiflorals, which that's the main plant which is dying off, but it's putting up two growths there. And this one is putting a new growth up in the middle, new leaf up in the middle, and the new growth there. So I'm quite pleased with this lava rock. Now these can be quite difficult because there's a few of them, especially on the multiflorals, that when they start putting up new growth like this, it can be 2 years before the mother plant gives them any roots. So that's why I find them difficult. Anyhow, that's enough for just looking at them. I'll try and tell you something about them. Well, let's tell you something about paphs. Well, paphs, as I just said before, come from the tropical regions of Southeast Asia, as far east as China and the Philippines. And the word Paphiopedilum comes from the Greek. And if you split it in two, it means Paphos, which is Venus, and pedilon, meaning sandal. So they're really Venus's sandals, that's why they call them slipper orchids. And they grow mainly on the debris of forest ground, and sometimes as lighter types, where they grow in the moss and debris between limestone rocks. They like a light much lower than most orchids, which make them ideal for home growing in east, south or west facing windows. Some books say they are terrestrial orchids, but I don't think they are. They grow in the ground, but really they, to my mind, are epiphytes. The roots of these plants do not enter the soil in the ground, but exist mainly on the debris, as I've said before. And the only time they find their roots in soil is when rain, monsoons rush over them and wash soil over the roots. Now some growers, as I've said before, find these plants easy to grow, whilst others have struggled years without much success. They're very slow growers and can take up to 10 years for a seedling sized plant to bloom. But if you come to some good growers from seedling size, they can get these flowering into half that time or even less. Now most of these plants like alkaline conditions, which they experience in the wild, so if you use tap water, which is high in calcium, then that should be okay for them. The usual media for these plants is, what shall I say, orchid bark, which has been treated with calcium, and you can have it coupled with perlite or chopped up sphagnum. But recently I've put these sort of plants in lava rock, which I might add has been successful so far, because I've had no deaths among them. For the water I use reverse osmosis water, but if you can get rainwater, that's very good. And for feeding, I like to give them plenty of calcium. And I use calcium nitrate, which also contains nitrogen. And I probably think that's very beneficial to the plant's growth. Now, you may, when I was looking at them, see some white powder on them, and that was simply dolomite lime. Now, dolomite lime is different than ordinary lime, because ordinary lime is calcium. Dolomite lime is calcium plus magnesium. And I can only get this in powder form. And in powdered form, when I put it on top, it just washes through. And hopefully, with the lava rock having a lot of little holes in it, some get stuck in there, and then the plants can use it when they feel like it. But if you can get the pelletized form, then this can be scattered on top of the media, and the plants will always have calcium and magnesium at their disposal. I don't know why I can't get this in this country, because it's typical of the UK, and at the moment, with the position of the UK being in, then I can't see anything getting any better at all. As temperatures go, where I live in the north of England, they grow very well on indoors, and if you grow them in greenhouses, they range from temperatures from 12 to 25, but the plain leaved paths will take temperatures a little bit lower. Now, some path keepers say to me, how do I get them to bloom? And I think they're hoping for I'm going to come up with some magical formula, but the only way you can help is by giving them bright light away from any sunshine. Keep the media damp, and make sure you don't water them with cold water. And if you feed as mentioned, you shouldn't get any brown tips on the leaves, or any root rot, or yellowing of the leaves. Now, I've just been looking on the web, and I found one thing, and I'll not put any names to it, but it says that slipper orchids have pseudobulbs, which they store water in. And what a load of rubbish is that? Who on earth could write that kind of misinformation? Slipper orchids do not have any pseudobulbs at all. They just rely on what you give them, and they cannot store it anywhere. So if any keeper of orchids needs to find an answer to their problems, get in touch with a grower who knows well, and only believe 50% of what you read in books. Well, I hope that hasn't put you off growing any paths. They are quite adapted to growing in the home. So if that's where you grow your orchids, just try a path or two, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. Well, let's have a look at the Phrags now. And I've got them on a bench here. You can't all see them, so I'll try and get in a position where I can show you, if I can get the camera sort of in the right position. Right, we'll start with this one, which is the Phragmipedium schroderi. And I got this off somebody who said they've never ever bloomed it yet, and they've had it a few years, so we'll see what we can do with it. It's still in bark, but what I'll do shortly, I'll take this out of the bark and put it in some lava rock. And these are beautiful, beautiful flowers when they do flower, but they are quite difficult, but we'll see how we go on with them anyhow. Now this one is I think I've got 3 cardinales. Yeah, this is a cardinale, and this has flowered before, and this one was the normal cardinale. I mean, they can come out in all colours, these. They're mainly white petals with pink, or and a deep red pouch on them, and that's what this one is. The one next door to it, which was bought as a cardinale, and I think the flowers are absolutely beautiful, and these are like baby pink, absolutely beautiful. No bright red pouch on them, but plenty and plenty of that beautiful pink. Another bulb there at the back, and another bulb there, another flower there, growing at a funny angle. But there we are, and that's got another bud behind it. I haven't repotted this since I've had it because it was in spike, and this is in bark and oh, what do they call it? Something rock. I forget it. It's terrible like that. This is another Andean fire, I think. Yep, this is an Andean fire as well, just budding up well. And then here we've got a youngish plant, medium-sized growth now, and it's grande. Now you can see all that that white on the leaves there. That's just dried up dolomite lime that I mentioned when I was doing the Paphiopedilums. It'll just wipe off. Hopefully some of the substance will have been taken in by the leaves, which you can only do with the power of God. But we'll have a look at these and see where we go from there. Well, as with the Paphiopedilums, the name Phragmipedium comes from the Greek, with phragma meaning division, and pedium, which means slipper. And there we've got the slipper orchids again. And they live in the tropical regions of South America and Mexico. Now these plants can be either terrestrial, epiphytic or lithophytic. But they are one of the orchids which must have a good quality of water. So we're talking about rainwater, distilled water or all water. But there again, I know of a gentleman who grows them very well in hard tap water, which is very high in calcium. And that seems to be supplying it all the calcium it needs. Although the tap water has a high TDS amount. Now these are alkaline loving plants, so calcium, as in most orchids, calcium is a very essential ingredient for them. If they don't have enough calcium, they'll grow badly, because calcium builds all the cell walls of the plant. So if you're giving them too little calcium, it won't be doing them any good at all. As for the media Phrags, they like to grow in almost anything, with the main medias being rockwool. Oh, that was the name I was after before, wasn't it? Rockwool. Or orchid bark and perlite. And at the moment I have a few in lava rock, which are doing very well. And I like this media because it's of its ease of use and the advantages of what lava rock gives you. These frags like damp conditions, and you can water them every day without overwatering and causing root rot and blackening leaf tips. And that's one of the beauties of lava rock. And at the moment I'm feeding every other week with my mix for other orchids, but come November I will be heading towards my usual feeds of these plants, which will be fish, blood and bone, fed in November and then again in May, which will just be twice a year. This is a slow release fertiliser and has always served me well in the past. But if you like, you can use 1 part lava rock to 3 pints of sphagnum, but using this you'll have to think about repotting every year or so. And when repotting, always remember that slippers do not grow aerial roots. So the bottom of the plant should be touching the medium frags and should be slightly buried below the medium for Paphiopedilums. Do not fertilise slipper orchids much. They only need fertilising every 2 or 3 weeks during the warmer months, and they require even less in winter. But I do like to flush every 2 weeks or so. Well, there's not much more I can tell you about Phragmipediums. I think I've done it all before in other videos. You know, these are not sort of plants you can keep in the home because they get far too big. Although there are some quite smaller ones around. This is a plant you wouldn't call over big. It probably stands about 12 or 14 inches high, but a little bit too big for indoors, I think, especially on windowsills. Mind you, it all depends how big your windowsills are, doesn't it? And well, not much more to say about these, but do keep them wet. But keep them in good draining media, which is a must, because they like water, but they like good clean water. And if you stand them in water, make sure that water they're stood in gets changed at least 3 or 4 times a week, because if that water becomes stagnant, which it will do if you water too much in the pots and the roots get wet too long for always remember, Phragmipediums like to be wet, and with wet I don't mean just standing in water. They like to be wet continually with water that keeps passing through them, which is fresh. They hate stagnant water, and nothing will kill them more than having the water stagnant, having it in the pots which the water can't drain away because your media is too solid or too firm, you know, and it won't let water pass through it quickly. But that's what you need. You need good quality water pouring over the roots as often as you can, and they will do absolutely fantastic. So I can't say much more about them now, so thank you very much for watching. Hope this hasn't been too boring for you, and until next time, I'll see you later. Bye.